Section 7 now, moving on to our pre-production, creating our mood board, and this is really kind of creating our style guide and our anchor image, you might call this, or reference, style reference, all these different terms for it. And a lot of people want to skip this section and go, I don't need this. Well, I'm here to tell you that actually, yes, you really should, especially for AI video, because you are going to generate multiple images using AI to generate video, and you need it to look like they were all filmed in the same place at the same time. If I was actually filming, obviously, if I was filming a scene and there's multiple scene and people, there's all in the same time perhaps, or all have the same costume style, set design in the same location. With AI, every time I'm generating an individual image and then video, and it's very easy for these images to get lost and to lack continuity between them. So it looks like multiple different movies. Characters don't match, scenes don't match, the feel doesn't match. So we do this step right here, which is really quick and easy, but it's going to make a big difference. So if I just put up the slide right here, you can see exactly what I mean. The reference image or style reference is intended to dictate your visual consistency across all future images. In AI and creative workflows, this might also be referred to as your visual benchmark or your style anchor. It's a foundational role in establishing the visual tone, texture, color palette, and overall aesthetic that other images should follow. For example, here, if I generate this first image like this kind of film noir image, black and white, of a woman with the Venetian blind casting a shadow over her, and then I want to create a room in the same style. This is a dining room, living room, Hollywood 1940s, that kind of feel. If I, inside the platform we're going to use, which is predominantly Midjourney, I can tell it, generate this new image I'm discussing in the style of this previous image. So I have that consistency across shots. So you can see from the slide, it's crucial. I could have created that first shot and then spend my whole time trying to create other shots like it. But instead, because I have shots of, and we're going to develop character shots here and scenes, main scenes that we need, have those all set in stone. When I have those images, when I'm creating all my fill images between those, for example, in my story, I know I've got a girl coloring in her coloring book when I first start, and then she looks out the window, and then she goes somewhere else. I can make sure I have the same character wearing the same clothes, looking exactly the same in each shot, in a house that looks exactly the same for those multiple shots. We generate these images in this mood board pre-production section to have that set in stone. Now, this is a little bit of a catch-22 for this section. I'm just going to let you know this. Obviously, you haven't used these image generating tools. I'm going to use Midjourney for this section. That's in the next section when we generate, in 2 sections time, when we generate images in a big section there, and I'll teach you in depth how to use Midjourney. So you can either follow along with what I'm doing right here, and you can see how I'm prompting on what I'm doing, or skip forward to that section and you can see with the Midjourney lecture how I'm using that tool, all the different aspects of that tool. I don't want to cover it here and then cover it again later. So either skip forward or watch this, is probably better. Watch and see what I'm doing. If you're missing something or it's not obvious, then go forward and take those lectures and come back to it. But you will get what I mean from here. Or perhaps some of you are going through the whole course and then you're going to go back and do these step by step. Whichever way you're doing it, just to let you know that's the case. This will also, doing this, save you a little bit of money. Not to make this little lecture any longer, and you can skip the next one if you don't care. I'm going to tell you how this can save you time and money doing this before we get on and actually generate some images. Realizing that not many of you have seen Midjourney, which is the main image platform we're going to be using, although there's many, and you will have seen this earlier on after the fundamental section when we did the workflows. You saw me use this and make a whole workflow, which was great, and earlier on in the course touching on it. But having not seen it, this section right now, if any of you are looking to do this on a bit of a budget and don't want to save some money doing this, then this stage right here, this one and the next one, these next 2 stages, the mood board section and the storyboard section, can save you a lot of money and time if you do this, as opposed to just jump straight in trying to make images and then animate those for AI. That's because if I come onto the subscription that I'm on, for example, I pay $60 a month. That's an expensive subscription, or right around the middle. They are a lot cheaper, and I'll show you in a moment. That gives me 30 hours of fast generations, and I can do 12 concurrent jobs and all these details. Now, if I go to change the plan, let me show you. There is a basic at $10 a month, but you're limited to generations at 200. So if you're going to do loads more, then obviously it will cost you more than that. And then you're done by hours. So 15 hours of fast generations, 30 hours. So if you're using it a lot every day, suddenly you run out of hours. It's very slow generating your images. So if you want to stick to this $10 a month plan, or $30, but probably the $10 a month plan, then when you come to generate images, and I've been there too for your film, you could easily generate one and go, oh no, that doesn't look quite right, and do it again and again and again and again until you get it. You could be easily doing 10 times the number of images you need to. You're going to generate multiple images for each one. No one is going to give you the perfect image first time, very unlikely. But if you do this section we're going to do right now, where we generate an image to have as a style reference, you are going to have to generate a lot less images, saving you a lot less time, because these take time to generate, and actual money, because if you run out of generations, you then have to go up to the next plan. So if you're looking to save a bit of money, and especially time, I do this, it saves me so much time. And if you're doing multiple projects, if you were doing a social media channel, YouTube, and you want to get out 3-4 projects a week, this will save you so much time to just do this step. And that's why I suggest doing it. So let's move on to the next lecture, where I'm going to grab the actual shots that I need. I'm going to get a shot list for the script that we've been working on, and then I'll know what I need to make for the next step when we're going to get creative. Now, before we go on and generate our images for our mood board, we need to know kind of what our images are. We don't have to generate everything at this stage, but a really quick way to do this, and I suggest you do, I've got my script here, which you will have also from the project you've been working on. And I just copy this that we've saved before, or you can find it in ChatGPT where you've worked on this previously. And I can ask it, if I go for this script and then I paste it in, get to the bottom here, I can go generate me a simple list of each character and scene needed to be generated. I am using AI video to generate these, so provide me a prompt for each character and set scene at the end to use to get these images. Okay, this is actually going a bit of a step further than what I normally do, but I can show you this, how simple this can be. So I've got my characters here, Amy, an American girl, and here is the prompt I can use. Amy, a Japanese girl, Amy's father, lower half only, and Amy's father, lower half only. And for each of these, it's already given me a prompt. Now, you don't have to use this, but I like to have it as a template right here. I might decide that Amy's got ginger hair. I might decide that she's wearing something different, that she is sat somewhere else, and you probably want a more general image. The first thing I'm going to be doing, two things we're going to generate. One is like a profile picture. I imagine it as a full body and a top half image shot, face on, possibly side on, of each character so that I have them for reference. And then for each scene, we have each one here with a prompt. So opening scene, we've got an American interior home, and then we also have the Japanese home. Amy's expression, it's a close-up of a young girl's face. We don't need this yet because right now for the mood board, we are just generating that. And then Amy's room growing darker. You may want to have a juxtaposition, maybe two shots, the warm light one and the dark lit one, and how that changes. And then two young girls standing side by side. You don't need this because we are just generating what these scenes look like. So that's what we do. So I just need my two characters and a prompt, which you can change later, and then your scenes. This will be very different for you, obviously, depending on what your scene is. For me, I have each one of my 4 characters. So in the next stage, when we generate this, I'm going to have 4 characters and their profiles, what they look like, and I'm going to have 1 or 2 scene shots, and they're going to have the right style, right color and right imagery, so that I'm getting what all of my movie looks like and they're all going to match. So go ahead and get your somewhat of a shot list with some prompts using AI, and then we'll go into the next stage where we're actually going to get creative and start generating these images. I'm about to generate images that I want for my movie that I'm going to be creating, and I have a style in mind, but I want to make you aware once again for this page, aivideo.school/styles, where I list out all different styles and what they look like, from Blue Hue to different directors and their styles. I don't want you to waste credits if you're on a limited plan. I want that 1980s kind of retro style, 1950s, this colorful, and trying to work out what it is when we can use AI and other sites to generate what these look like first. Let me go into Gemini right here. Gemini is a good one for this because it's multimodal, so it can give you information and images. Use this prompt 20, you could have more different movie styles with visual image examples. Don't know why there's a capital there, for each. The visual examples should be scenes showing the style. Otherwise, sometimes it just pumps out the movie poster. For example, I've said film noir, cyberpunk, and so on. So I can hit enter and we can see what those styles we're going to have. So I have film noir and it's giving me an image. So if I'm like, oh, that's the kind of style that I want. Cyberpunk looks like this. Italian neo-realism, very real, following people around. French new wave, that kind of romantic. German expressionism. Surrealism, that's when everything's a bit distorted, like a Dali painting. Of course, animation, sci-fi, western, horror, comedy, some of the obvious ones, but you can go into depth here breaking down exactly what these styles are. But on site, once again, we have quite a lot: film noir, western, sci-fi, retro, some 1980s here, melodrama, golden hour, blue hue, cyberpunk, steampunk, documentary style, expressionist, surrealist, in the style of Tarantino, Wes Anderson, Stanley Kubrick, deep focus, shallow focus, fisheye shots. So that's on there. You can go and check those out, but start making your own. If you have a style in mind, and perhaps you've seen it in a movie or a TV show, ask the internet, what is this style for this movie, this TV show? It might have a style you don't understand. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very hard for you to generate that in the next if you don't even know what it's called. So let's go and generate these images now. I'm getting excited to get creative. See you on the next lecture. Now let's generate some images and get creative here. I'm inside Midjourney, midjourney.com. Once again, in the next section after next, where we go into images, I'll show you how to use this software in depth. You can skip forward and do that if you want to, or just follow along with me here. And if you need to, then go and get some more experience by checking that out, or just follow along and come back to this. So I'm inside midjourney.com. There is a version inside Discord, which I first used, and now there is this great platform version online on site midjourney.com to be able to use and generate. So I'm going to generate as if I'm you. I'm not going to do my course project. That will come in a couple of lectures time. So you'll see me also generate images there. I'm going to do a simple example to show you what's needed. So I've gone into ChatGPT and I've said, generate me a simple 3-minute story, sci-fi about a girl and her father. I want a deep and moving story. So it's generated me a story. It doesn't really matter what it is for this example. I'm going to show you how to use images. It's about Lena, and she's in a sci-fi futuristic world. Her father leaves her a message on like a hologram, and then I've asked it to, sure, can you get me a shot list now of these characters and sets? I'm going to use AI to generate this movie, so provide me with prompts, just like I showed you a couple of lectures ago. So I'm going to just take this prompt right here. First, I need Lena. So we're going to be collecting our characters and what they look like, and then our scenes. And I want them to have a consistency throughout them. So I'm going to just copy that right here. I'm going to go back into Midjourney, into create. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to make sure my settings, I want these in 16:9. That's absolutely fine. For a movie setting, I'll show you more about those details in the future section. I'm going to paste this in and just reread it. A 17-year-old girl with a futuristic yet rugged look. I'm going to ask for a cinematic still. You don't have to say that, but you can do. A 17-year-old girl with a futuristic yet rugged look. Shoulder length hair, wearing worn out clothing in a sci-fi urban setting. She has a contemplative expression, cinematic lighting. Don't want to put digital art. I'm going to put photorealistic and 8K, although it won't do 8K. I'm going to say full body shot on a white background. She is looking directly at us. And let's generate that. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to generate 3 versions of this. So I'm going to go R3. Again, I'll teach you these in a future section. And that's going to basically, each time you generate, you get 4 images. So I'm going to get 12 because I did it 3 times, because you never get exactly what you want. Very rarely, and I want to get a big enough display so I can see what I'm working with, what I need to change perhaps in the prompt to get what it is that I want. So it's not giving me this full-bodied shot for these at least. Let's see what else is generated. Okay, I'm getting a whitish background. This is somewhat of what I need, but it's not quite photorealistic. This is looking a little bit more like it. Let me see this. Okay, I quite like this one actually. Yeah, let's work with that. I quite like that. So I want it to remix this strong. I'm going to have it do that a couple of times just quickly, and it's going to use this similar type setting. Obviously it's not full body yet, we get to that in a moment. What I want is a nice profile shot of Lena so that we have a great image to work with for when I'm generating future shots, and make sure the style is the same. All right, let's have a little flick through these. I do like this. I like this blue hue that we're using here for the movie, and that's what I kind of want to have throughout here, this blue hue. If I go back onto my styles, you can see if I scroll down to the bottom here, further up, blue hue, this kind of look that's often used in sci-fi, so that's really good. Yeah, I actually do like that. Now I'm going to just do a subtle mix of this. Again, I'll show you how to use this tool so it changes a few things. Maybe do her clothing, maybe her hair. I might not want to change anything at all. Let's have a look and see what it generates. Now let's flick through these. She looks slightly more computer game in those ones. I like the original image a little bit more. Let's go back to the original image. She's got that look on her face, innocent look. Okay, I'm going to upscale this so I have an even better image of it. Just going to generate one here. I'm going to download that, and then we still need obviously a full body shot of her, and I want to try and get this on a more simple background also. I'll show you that. Okay, 100% complete. This is the image of Lena that I like. Yeah, nice soft focus right here. Clothing's really cool. This like backpack that I've got here. I really like that. So I'm going to download that right there. And then the other thing I want to do with editor, I'm just going to make that smaller, move that here so we get a full body-ish shot. Let's submit that and have a look. Let's have a look and see what's generated for us here. Looks like she's holding a gun in this one. An oversized baggy jacket. That's quite cool, as if it's her father's jacket. Something I didn't think about. This is creating for me. Here, another one with a baggy jacket. And then she's got kind of a glove. I like this one. Let's remix that subtle and remix that strong. And you're seeing how we're generating imagery here, and how I'm using just slight nuances. As I get something close to what I want, then I edit it slightly. Again, in a couple of sections time, I'm going to show you how to actually edit these images, specifically add something in the background, take something away, change things. Specifically, I'll show you that more in the following sections, but this is exciting here, isn't it? So here's the remix subtle. Let's take a little look of that. Looks more Asian in that first photo, and it's changing her face too much, so not that one. And let's have a look at the strong version here, and these are the images it's generated with a strong generation. It's changed too much of her face and the way she looks. I like to go back to, these are the original ones that we made, where she's wearing like her father's coat here and a big jacket. Yeah, I really like, although that one is really cool with her sleeves up and a bit, she's holding like 2 guns. I mean, I can take that away. I quite like her in her father's jacket. Okay, let me up-res that one so I've got that one stored. All right, here is the high-res version of her here in this like alleyway. Okay, so I want to make sure I've got those downloads here. What I'm going to do is actually, if I go here and then I can choose, or I can drop it here, I could actually drop this right there. So this is our close-up shot we just had of Lena. I can do the same with this one right here, and it's uploading it. So I have both these shots. Now I can select this shot. I can choose the character of her. Again, I'll show you all of this. I'm going to say this character on a white background. I don't think it's going to do it. I think it's going to take multiple generations to try and get exactly what we want here, and we don't need it necessarily 100%, but I'd quite like a really clear image of it. So at least if it had a brighter, whiter background, that would suit me slightly more. So it's done absolutely not what we want whatsoever. Why is this one in a chicken? Sometimes AI will do nothing like you want it to do, absolutely nothing. This is why you generate multiple images. So this one is perhaps the closest, but I'm going to regenerate this again. I'm going to take the existing prompt. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to just remove some of this. No, I'm not. I'm going to go on a white clear background, so it's in twice, and I'm going to make sure that the image is selected. So I'm telling it keep this character, and let's generate that. Okay, cool. So I did 3 versions of that. I did 2 with the wider shot we got and 1 with the closer shot to see what I'm starting to generate here, and I am getting like a more clear background. That's actually quite a good shot. I think my favorite might have been, and the best quality that we've got is like one of these, although that's not completely clear, but that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That one is actually also, see, we're getting this right here. So I'm going to store one of these or several of these. I've already got the 2 other images, and I'll have a little bank of a few images of Lena, some more clear than others, so we can use that every single time, and it's got that blue hue feel. And now the last thing I want to do, I'm just going to generate one of these scenes. Okay, so a dimly lit, cramped, futuristic apartment filled with holographic screens, old tech, and a few personal items. The room is worn, lived in, filled with a view of a dystopian cityscape outside. So here is the prompt that I'm going to use. Copy that in here. I'm going to go through there, just paste that in. Now what I'm going to do to make sure I have the same feel as this, I'm just going to copy over here, and I click the paperclip one. So I'm telling it that's the kind of the feel that I want. So a dimly lit futuristic apartment for holographic screens, technology, a cramped space would feel the stable city outside. Okay, let's take a little look and see what that does. Let's actually do that. I should have done multiple of those. Let's do that again. Let's do 2 more of those, so I get 12 images in total. Let's see what we get from Midjourney. So I can see these generating already. You can already see that because we matched it to that original shot right here, which was this one, this blue lit hue that we've got, that is blue lit. We're going to have the same look and feel throughout our entire movie because we generated her image first and we're using that. And I can scroll through here and see that these are generating, yeah, some of these are a bit messy, some of these don't look that futuristic, and I can keep working on them. Let's have a little look and see what they got here. That's got a person in there that I could remove quite easily. This is quite a cool apartment shot. One of these, maybe. That's a bit freaking scary and it's messy. I quite like one of these. Actually, that's quite nice looking at that. One of these apartment. Okay, futuristic lit apartment filled with holographic screens and old technologies. Cramped space with a worn, lived-in feel. What if I put in right here, I want to use this prompt, and this style is still on here. Visually lit apartment. I'm going to say living room, and let's generate that. Take a look at some of these. These are looking quite futuristic, quite cinematic with the look and feel of this. Oh, here we go, because we've got the screens here. She's actually in the shot right there. but we can start working on some of these, and I can even start taking away some of this. So if I just come up here, I'm going to say a dimly lit futuristic living room filled with this. I'm going to take away a cramped space with a lived in feel. I'm just going to take that out right there, and you'll see how the smallest amount of text can change the whole image right here. So let's just generate that. Submitted. Let's wait. And this is the fun part, isn't it? I love getting creative like this. And yes, it feels like we're generating quite a bit, but once I've generated this and I've got those shots of Lena and her apartment, and I've only got several scenes, you can see that because, like when I use this image of Lena with the paperclip to get the same feel, it's going to save us so much time on our future images because we made this mood board. Let's look at some of these here. Okay, this one. I quite like this. This has got a futuristic kind of feel to it. Remove that. I'm going to try one more prompt. A dimly lit futuristic apartment, sci-fi, living room, holographic screens, and technology. I'm going to say, let's take that away. Let's launch this. All right, let's take a look at some of these. Okay, yeah, this is quite cool, isn't it? With these screens over here, and it still looks like a messy. We've got that, definitely that cyberpunk feeling, which it keeps saying in here. It's inside my prompt. Multiple screens on here. Yeah, and it's got that, yeah, that dystopian city outside, that kind of Asian city feel, metropolis. Yeah, I really like it. So you could keep playing with this over and over until you get it perfect, obviously. In fact, we could move out the cyberpunk if we want to remove that, because we have that image already telling us the kind of look we're going to have. If I just remove that, we can see what we're going to get. But the next stage, so now I've showed you how to generate a character, get that, and then use that feel, and we're going to generate a scene. Perhaps you've got multiple scenes and multiple characters. So in exactly the same way, I won't create more characters with you because you just do the same thing again. Generate the characters that we have and the scenes, and then we're going to put these together inside our document that we're making to create our mood board. And I'll just quickly put that together in the next lecture before I go off and I actually make you're following along with this course project where we make the mood board for the movie I'm creating in the 1940s. Finally, I'm just going to look at this. All right, nice. Now I've taken away cyberpunk. I'm getting a bit more of a feel that I want. Ignore the characters on this because, yeah, that's got a few screens there. This is quite a cool one. This one right here, you can imagine her sat down and she takes a call. She releases a hologram from her father here. So you might keep that image right there. I could change it, obviously, slightly, remix it subtle, remix it strong. And in the next section, then the next lecture, sorry, I'm going to put these together and show you what I do when I create a mood board. I see you on the next lecture. So you actually probably want to place your mood board down. For some of you, you'd have constant reference to it. And how you do this is completely up to you. I'm going to show you some things, something you probably haven't thought about, actually, things that I do. So if you had you've been working on your script right now, we have our script, we have our shots that we broke down and all the other stuff. You could just have your mood board on the end here. If I was to generate this, I could just have mood board and have my images, and it makes absolute sense just to have it underneath here and start having your images. I sometimes like to have a visual on. Sometimes I keep this on my desktop or whatever. I use Photoshop. You could be using Pixlr. You could be using Canva. Any tool, really. It doesn't really matter what it is that you are using. Now, I do something here. I have font, main, prompt, notes, character 1. You'd also have character 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you have. And scene 1. You'd also have scene 2, 3, 4, 5. And I just add these images into here. So if I go to my downloads and I will just grab these out here that we just generated. So I'd have character 1, Lena. I would store this onto here, start making my mood board. Great. I also have a different shot of her, a wider shot to be using for reference. And I keep these obviously in my downloads also to make sure you have them. So here's my characters here. and then my scene that we were developing, scene 1, and you could obviously have multiple scenes depending on what it was. So I'd put my scene right about here or something. And if I just go back to, if I move this down and go back to ChatGPT, to Midjourney, I can see what my main things I was using for to prompt with. So if I go back to the shots we were doing here, cinematic still, futuristic yet rugged look, what I would do is I'd paste this in and start taking away. So it reminds myself of some of the prompts that I used for things. So if I just go here, let's just go like that. Let's paste this, futuristic yet rugged look. I don't need any of that. Worn out clothing. I like that in a sci-fi urban setting. Cinematic lighting. Asked it for photorealistic, and the rest of it not needed. And then also the same thing for my scene. When I was developing that and we were wanting our scene, we had, if I use this text, let's get rid of this. Let me use this prompt, futuristic apartment, sci-fi, holographic screens on a deep view of dystopian city. I quite like. And I'm also going to add in there blue hue and something else we were using. Blue hue, which if you remember is right here on the site that I've been working on and shared with you for AI Video School. Let me just move that down, blue hue, and then also we have cyberpunk. Just some terms to remind myself of some things that I use that when I want to be prompting, I might want to ask it for, so that I always have that on my sheet. Now, font, you're going to want some title fonts, I expect. It's also a great way to just get a kind of feel for things. Now, this is a sci-fi movie and I want a sci-fi futuristic font. So I could be looking through Photoshop or whatever software we have right here. But also if I just go to Google, my favorite is DaFont. I use DaFont and you can search in here. If I search for sci-fi, I can start getting some sci-fi style. These are perhaps a little bit too much. Oh, if I look through, coming under techno sci-fi fonts, when I look through here, there's an actual Star Wars style font right here. Squid Games one. This is quite nice. So is this. Let me keep going. Oh, I quite like this too. This is called Dune Rise. Okay, let me download that. And if I open that up from my downloads, all I have to do to get that into the software that I want to use, if I drag this onto screen, Dune Rise, if I just open this up, it's going to say, all right, this is the font. Do you want to install it? Sure, I'll install it. Close this, go back into Photoshop where we were, and I could now search for Dune, and it's here, Dune Rise Regular. So this, I think, what was the story title they gave this? Here's the script right here. Oh yeah, The Last Message. So I could put this on here and I could change this to The Last Message, and here's the font I like to use. You can of course have more than one font. Here's a title, but you might want to have more, what am I saying, a more readable font or general font. Something like, if I go Helvetica light, and I could do other font to use, something like that, and it's just more of a generic font to be using alongside there. So I could have title and I could have perhaps credits or whatever inside that font. I like to have that because it really kind of brings in the feel of what things are. And we could go a step further. Sometimes I do this. If I move these over, I'm going to move the characters here. Let's keep the character there. Let's put the scene right over here. Scene 1. I like to put colors. Let's make that here. And if I was to choose specific colors that I want, I like to pick these from the shot like this color right here. Let me grab a shape right now. Fill, I don't need a stroke for it. This fill, okay, let me choose another color. This darker bit right here is pretty good. And we've also got some of the blacks and things that she's using, or a really dark blue we've got right here. So here's pretty much my colors, maybe in hierarchy. if I like to divide up what my movie is going to be. And I can see these colors right here with this blue hue are present in here. They're definitely present in here, especially these bottom two. And I can make sure that every single time I'm using it, make sure the blue hue's in the prompt. I've got my fonts and the feeling. I've got my main character, and you'd have multiple of those. I've got my main scene, you'd have multiple of those. I've got my colors, just to make sure that everything's matching up. Once again, you don't have to use Photoshop for this. You could just be putting it right into here. You could be using any of the free versions of Pixlr or whatever else you're used to using that's online to put this together. But it's great to visualize what this looks like, my mood board. And I could just neaten this up. Yeah, and I can store this and I can present this and keep it however I want. Just fonts, characters, colors, scenes, and then prompt notes, and you're pretty much good to go. So now in the next lecture, I've made this for this made up story that we had for the sake of this. We've been following along with the course project that I've been working on, all the way from idea, script, and now we're going to go to mood board, all the way through to make images, a video for this, and we're going to send it off, edit it, and send it off to film festival, and see how this does. So let's follow along with that, and I'm going to make a mood board, my characters and scenes for my project. So now it's time, if you've been following along, to do this for our course project. You know that I've gone from all the way from the beginning to generating an idea for this, to generating a script, getting some bullet points down for what the characters should be like. And now let's do our style guide for this project. And then you're going to see me create images, storyboard images, animate these into a video, edit this together, and send this off to film festival to be a final video, so you can follow along all the way from beginning to end. So I'm going to make the style guide or the mood board for the story we've been working on. That's, if you've been following along, that was this. It was this story of two young girls, one in the USA, Pearl Harbor, one in Japan, 4 years apart or 3 years apart, and then both having loss of their fathers, and kind of that emotional impact and the impact of war on those we don't always think about. So I said, okay, so here's the script. Can you divide this down? The script finished here. Generate me a simple list of characters and scenes needed to be generated. I'm using AI video to generate these, so provide me with a prompt for each character, set, and scene. And it broke it down here to Amy, Amy's father, and then some scenes. So if I go back into, this is where I've been copy and pasting in the script that we've been working on, and you've probably got a very similar project just like this if you've been following along, that is, step by step. And just in the same one, rather than use Photoshop like we did before, you saw in the previous lecture, made something like this on the mood board. Let's just do it much more simple. Let's just keep it inside here, and I'll show you how to do that so you have both options. So I'm going to go from the top, font, colors, then the characters will generate these, and then also scenes I need to add here too. So let me just add scenes, and we'll get to that. So from the top, I'm thinking this is set in the 1940s. I really want to make it feel like it was set in the 1940s. That is, match with fonts for titles and things and colors. So I was just doing a little bit of research, and I was just looking in 1940s films. I was looking at the fonts that we're using, this kind of scriptive curve that's used a lot, as well as this style right here. I don't even know what you call this. But if I go through everything from 1940s advertising, can see that again. And then if I go 1940s posters, yep, this kind of style you see just to the right of my cursor right here, which is the same as like We Can Do It and things. Now if I go onto fonts, you saw me download these for free. I just searched 1940s fonts on Google and see what was coming up in different font sites. This is 1001 fonts, and if I scroll down I can see what's here. Some of these are good, some of them not so much. This one I think is very similar to this style. You see the Great Dictator, or some of the advertising type brands. This one right here, where did that go? Sorry, at the top, Boogaloo Regular. So I'm going to download that. I'm going to just make a note to myself when I come back to here. Boogaloo regular, and let's keep going. That wasn't the only font that I wanted. Now this is that scriptive curve. Look at this one, advertising script bold. This is definitely that style that we see in where was it on the first one, kind of this, and It's a Wonderful Life. Also, let's definitely take that advertising script bold, make a note. Let's keep going. I want to have myself maybe 3 or so, 4 maybe fonts. This is definitely it. This looks very much, actually these two do. So there's Rick's, which is probably taken from the film Casablanca, which the main character is Rick, set in wartime in 1940s, and Yesteryear regular. So let's do Rick's and Yesteryear, Rick's and Yesteryear. So I'm going to have about 5 or so fonts, I reckon. And then what I was thinking was that if it was Amy and Amy, and we've got Western Amy in the US, and then we've got Amy in Japan, that I wanted perhaps a more Japanese-inspired font. Now, some of these are obviously way too far, like this. I don't need it to look exactly like this. This looked like if I used it, it would be culturally inappropriate, almost. But let me keep going. There was, yeah, something like this. So it's not too dissimilar to this Niagato, is it? Here, not too disfamiliar from Yesteryear, but just has that kind of Asian feel to it. So let's do that one. And then exactly the same way, I'm just going to open these up and each one at a time, just install these very simply. Double click it. I'm on a Mac, it might be slightly different if you're on PC, but install, and now it's done. Let's do that for every font. So I've downloaded all of those. All I have to do is, if I double click one of these, go on the drop down, let's search that. That's the reason I'm putting the name on here. There's Boogaloo. Then I could do the advertising. And there we have it. I've just put all my fonts in here. Fonts really dictate kind of a style and a feel and generate an emotion, just like music would. I really feel that fonts do. So I've got myself in here 5 fonts. There's no way I'm going to use them all. Obviously, I'll narrow this down to perhaps 2, but good to have them in there, and it sets me kind of with options and a theme. Now, brand colors, if I go back to here, let me show you this advertising and what we've got here and see if you can see some similarities between these. I'm definitely feeling, if I go back to images, might be better for this. I'm definitely feeling that this red, yellow, orange, reds, yellow, orange, maybe a punch of these blues, red, yellow, orange, and a tiny punch of that blue again. Okay, that's what I need to know here. So I'm just going to go insert table. Let's do this. So it was definitely that red color. Was it bright red? It's almost like a slightly dark red. Okay, let's change that. This kind of red. Then there was the yellow again. It's quite a bright yellow. Let's add that in somewhere around here maybe. And there's definitely these orange hues to this, that kind of muted color. Let's add something in here. And then an absolute push, there was this pale kind of blue that I saw every now and again pop up, and it's in here. Let's add this more like this kind of a color. Okay, and that's there. So here I've got my color palette that I like here. Obviously also there's going to be black involved on here, that you can see in all shots for text and things. But as far as my images go, these are kind of my color palette, my 1940s color palette that I'm going to work with. Okay, we're building this up. Style guide, fonts, colors. Let's get into our characters. So I just copied and pasted this from over on our ChatGPT prompt that we had here, asking us to break it down, and it made us a prompt. Doesn't mean that's our final prompt, but let's go in and double check this. A young American girl, around 8 years old, with short brown hair, wearing a simple 1940s cotton dress. She sits at a wooden table with crayons. The setting is a 1940s American home with warm morning light. I'm interested to see what that prompt just generates by itself. So let's go in over to Midjourney. Let's paste that in right here. Again, in a couple of lectures time, I'll show you how to use this fully. Let's just see what that generates and see what our character is looking like and see if it has that right feel. I haven't told it anything like photorealistic. It doesn't know what style. I haven't told it any colors or anything. I'm just interested to see what it generates first. Okay, here we go. So let's look at these. It is realistic for sure. Yep, definitely looks like it could be 1940s. Even did it with the haircut. It seems right here. Maybe not this one so much, but definitely the dress and everything right here is 1940s. Okay, let's give it a little bit more information right here. A young American girl, around 8 years old, with short brown hair, wearing a simple 1940s dress. She's at a wooden table with crayons. The setting is a 1940s American home with warm morning light. 1940s decoration to the house. I just want to see if I can get a feel for this. 1940s aesthetic to the image and feel. Very generalized. I haven't told it too much else. Let's hit this. I actually want to take away this warm morning light a second and see what it comes out with, to see if that's skewing the color palette that I want slightly. Okay, now we're getting, so I really like this feel right here. Definitely has a 1940s feel, and so does this one somewhat for sure. Okay, let's play with this a little bit more. All I've done this time is said that outside the window we see Pearl Harbor, which is an extremely rare thing that they're going to live exactly on the harbor, but just to get kind of a feel. I don't think it's going to make that exactly. And then I always say we see Navy military decoration in the shot. I just want to start building this up a little bit and just see what we're going to get. Okay, let's see what that generated right here. Here we go. Here we go. Didn't really do too much. If I compare it to, say, this shot, that definitely looks like 1940s, and so does this, but do I get a different feeling with Amy herself? I'm going to run a few more generations here, and then I'm going to come back to you and show you my results. So I'm back, and I've been generating quite a few images, playing with some different things here. So I'm going to show you some examples. Obviously, I was starting to get somewhere. It's 1940s black and white. I had to make sure I eventually said full color in the prompt. I really loved this kind of feel. I don't know if it was this exactly, and it's because this is outside. If I have an external shot, then definitely this feel. But I started to use the style to get kind of this color coming in. When they're inside, they're more brilliant colors, if you want. I started using the prompt here, melodrama feel at Douglas Sirk Technicolor, which started bringing back some feels. Now Douglas Sirk is the director. Actually, if I go on to here and go styles under here, if I go into melodrama, this is what Douglas Sirk did in the 1950s, but definitely some correlation over here on the 1940s. So I was getting this feel. Look how beautiful these colors are. Actually, that's one I want to upscale. So I had a couple of shots. I started getting that symmetrical, and the final prompt wording I was using, again, look at this grade. I love this 1940s for sure. This is one of my final images I want to go with, and here's some of the prompting that I used. Girl in the middle, symmetrical shot. I used Technicolor. And also, if I go back to here, Technicolor 1940s film stock was also another one. So let me just use that. I'm going to copy this and remind myself here what my other prompt was. I'm going to put this down here. Okay, let me go back into here. Here's some of my images I want to work with. I love this coloring and definitely feels dated. Seeing as we're using AI, we can pretty much set our times in anything we want. I can show off a bit of a flex here, and I can show, hey, I can make this whole thing feel and look 1940s if I wanted to. That's fine. I'm going to do things like I will add in, eventually when it comes to making our shots, like I will say, add in a naval hat here, like this, and we'll start to do other things as we start to generate these. But right now I just want to get an image of both of these girls for my shot. So let's download that, and I'm going to download this, and when we come to do our storyboard next, I will finalize one of these and I will start generating it. But right now I want American Amy. Okay, here we go. So now we've got our first character. Here's Amy, and the feel of everything definitely matching here. Look at these little bits of blues I've got punching in here, in the dress and the color, and her dress here, and then these beiges, and definitely work. So that was the first Amy. Let me go through it. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, and I need to have exactly the same feel, of course, with this next character. First of all, I'm just going to paste in that and just see what the results bring up for our result for Amy in Japan. Okay, these look nice, actually really nice images, but obviously this looks way too modern day. So we need to adjust this prompt and to match some of our other prompts. So if I just use this, actually it was this one right here. I want to say Technicolor and 1940s. So let's use this prompt again. This time we're going to say Technicolor 1940s. A young Japanese girl, 8 years old, dark straight hair, wearing yukata or kimono in soft, solid colors. Let's take this away. She sits at a low wooden table, color pencils in traditional Japanese room, morning sunlight, shoji sun. I'm just going to take the morning sunlight away from... Actually, let's run one now with this, and then let's run one without. Brilliant. Now I'm definitely getting more of a, not this one so much, but this one. Look at this, definitely a 1940s feel to this. Really good. That similar grain than we had before. Not that one, not that. Maybe this one, but it's slightly too much. This one is slightly over stylized, but I really like this one. Let's do a subtle and a strong. Let me also, while I'm here, use this prompt. And then I want to go back to our image right here that we had, and I want to just use the style on this. Again, I'll show you all of how to use this in the coming up sections when we talk about imagery. Really beautiful color that we have here, especially that one. Look how nice these. Where I've used the style, it definitely made it way more modern. That one's kind of 1940s. I do like that style. I'm going to download two here. I'm going to upscale this, and then also I think the one I'm going to go with, original one, was one of these. I think it's this one that I like the most. Let's upscale that one and keep these two images, and I will decide when I come to my storyboard section exactly the final details as we start doing most of these in the next section. Now I've got Japanese Amy complete in exactly the same way. Let's put those in, and I'm really starting to build these up now. We've got character 1 Amy, character 2 Amy. On looking at these matching each other, it seems like this is going to be too punchy. I could play with this if I wanted to, because the background's very nice, and get it like this, but I think this shot really says classic 1940s, which is great. Okay, let me do the last two characters right here in exactly the same way. Let's copy these in here. I think if I can just read this, the lower half of man wearing 1940s US naval, one hand resting on a young girl's shoulder. The scene is warmly lit, and this figure partially obscured by a sense of distance. I don't want to put this on here just yet. Let's do this. Let's do also Technicolor 1940s. We know that seems to be working somewhat. I'm also just going to copy this, remind myself of the prompt that was used. Very important to start storing these up. Okay, so I've got my prompt, Technicolor 1940s, the lower half of a man wearing a 1940s US naval uniform. The scene is warmly lit. He's a figure partially obscured by a sense of distance. Let's see what that comes up with. I might actually, while we're here, lower half naval uniform. The scene is warmly lit. This is where I can already see that obviously AI is getting a little bit confused. It's like, why do you want the lower half? What is this? Starts giving me some other shots of Navy officers that it's learned. So this is going to take a little bit of playing with, like I've added back in the resting on the girl's shoulder, etc. So let's see if I can just have a play with this and finally get the prompt that makes the AI recognize, yeah, something more like this, similar. Let's see. Okay, finally what we're getting here, you see I've got lower halves, and I've got what looks like his daughter, like he's saying goodbye to her. Exactly what we want. Definitely a naval style uniform. Similar things here. So I use Technicolor 1940s, the lower half of a man wearing the 1940s US naval uniform, standing with one hand resting on a young girl's shoulder. He's in the living room of a 1940s American house. So let's play with these two, this one and this one, I really like. Let's remix this subtle because I'm not sure about his shoes he's wearing. And let's do the same thing here, subtle. Let's see what these results are, and then let's upscale one of these to store this. Okay, great. I can already see that the shoes are changing in all of these to be smarter shoes. I like that a lot. And also with this here, we have Amy. So the only thing we would do would obviously match the dress and things if we were to use a shot similar to this. So let's upscale two of these. I think this one right here has the best. Then let's upscale that. Again, I like these colors that they've punched in here to match what we had before. And then these four, let's see, something like this one, I think. Upscale this. So now we have her father, and that's all sorted. So let's add those to the sheet. And also, while I'm waiting for those, the lower half of a man, traditional, let's start trying to do Amy's dad also. So I'm going to say Technicolor 1940s. The lower half of digital man attire, generally adjusting a young girl's hair to ribbon. His figure is partially obscured with soft morning light illuminating the scene. So man, traditional Japanese, generally adjusting a young girl's hair ribbon. We see him only bottom half in a traditional Japanese home. I'm going to call it a living room still so it understands. Let's play with that. Okay, so let me download these while we're waiting. Insert these. Okay, very good, lovely. Now let's do Amy's dad. Let's go back and see what it's been generating. This was good, except we know in 1940s he was going off to work in a factory. If I go back to the script, he was going off to work, so I don't think he would be in traditional dress, as in like a kimono style or whatever it's called for here. Let me go here. Was young girl Amy, traditional attire stands beside her. Yeah, I think we need to change this to not that. The lower half of a man in 1940s Japanese work uniform. Let's see what that comes back with. Then there's the girl's hair with a ribbon. We see in his bottom half of Japanese room. Okay, let's have a little look. Okay, playing with some of these here. I mean, the color grading looks great for that, doesn't it? Look how nice that looks. Let's keep playing, but it's still giving me like a kimono. So I'm gonna have to probably dictate what it is I want him to wear. I'm at Japanese man in 1940s Japanese fashion, trousers and shirt. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I really like this. Look how nice this looks. So we definitely got some kind of dated, looks 1940s with this style. Let's keep going. That's nice, but I don't want to see his face so much. Oh, that's nice still also. Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's really nice actually. Let's go with, I want to do this one. I want to upscale that one, and also I really like this one also. And let's store those. And the last thing I want to do is to get the scenes, obviously. Just going to copy over the final prompt that I used for that to remind myself. Let's paste that in here, and then I want to add my two images here. Let's download both of these. Much better having this in a less traditional Japanese. She is still in clothing, but for him, and I think it really draws together the similarities between the two characters. Okay, and Amy's dad, here it is. Okay, so the only two other scenes I really want to do here is Amy's home, and we've already seen some of this, Amy's home, and perhaps I'm quite interested in doing a shot from the window. So let's first start with Amy's home. Now I can scroll back up here, actually it's in ChatGPT, and it can describe Amy's home for me. Amy's home, Pearl Harbor, a warm 1940s interior. Yeah, let's start playing with this. Once again, we know that Technicolor and 1940s gets me the look that we are going for. Simultaneously, actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to generate Amy is in Hiroshima. Okay, let's do this. Okay, coming back, but definitely not wide enough. Let me do this. A wide shot, establishing shot, and let's do that. It's probably going to be the same thing for Amy in Japan. Let's see. It looks slightly wider, but not wide enough. Let's do wide shot, establishing shot. But I really do like this window. Look at this, where you could see if there was an explosion out there. Okay, let's have a little look at this. Nice, it's got the ships out in the back, right? Let's call this, let's once again use this prompt, but let's go very wide camera angle, establishing shot. Let's see what Japan one done. It did the same thing. Okay, let's call it very wide. Okay, it's not doing it. There must be something in my prop that I've overlooked. Very wide camera, establishing shot, Technicolor, a warm American house, interior of a warm table and crayons spread out, a navy hat rests on the edge of the table, navy shirts visible through the window in the background with soft morning light. Okay, so another way to do this, if I wanted to, if I go to editor again, I'll show you all of this in the following lectures. I could just do this like this. Let's submit that and let's force it to give me a wide shot. So let's have a little look at what we see right here. Okay, here is this. That's nice, but does it match what I have in my folder so far for Amy's dad? Yeah, it could match that home for sure. Alrighty then, so that took some work. So I've got the kind of setting scenes that I want here. They're not the final ones, and you won't have a shot this wide. It's very rare that you'll have this. I actually have a couple for the shot that she could be sat at. This could easily be the shot where she sat right here, of course, and then out the window you see the naval ships and stuff. And then for Amy in Japan, this is the shot that I've got here. Really nice view right there, looking out of the window over the city. So once we do have a shot where we look out of that window, we can see the explosion happening. So I'm just going to download these. So now I've got both those shots in here to give me a style reference for that and the living room here. I'm not going to do the window scene in this because the next section where we do the storyboard is where I'm going to add a lot more shots. But I have a reference here that I have a window open that you can see that Amy could run to and look out. And also here sat by a great big window. And then this is more like a style reference for colors and things like that. So now I have my entire mood board created for this. I've got my fonts I'm going to use. You can imagine this coming up and Amy's name in this font, or the starting graphics. You could do some really cool stylized, mix this with a Tarantino style where you have a name come up and you've got this modern way you're doing titles with an old style font and an old style movie. That's going to be kind of cool. So we've got Amy sat here coloring. We've got Amy sat here coloring. It's probably going to be this shot predominantly and this shot. And then we've got Amy and her father. And then we've got Amy and her father. This is really nice. And then we've got the scenes. So now I have my mood board. We've done most of the work. That's all stored there. You've downloaded these. You have these images here inside your project and they're inside Midjourney. So we can now move on to the next section. Let's storyboard this, which is taking these styles that we've got on these characters and putting together a simple 12 kind of step to tell this story. That's going to be the skeleton for our entire project. And then after that, we're going to be able to fill those in and then animate that and make our final movie far more effortlessly. Get this done first, and then I'll see you on the next section. Task for you next. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed seeing me create that myself. And finally, in the section, I know it's been a long time coming with all the pre-production stuff we've been doing and learning and fundamentals, finally getting a bit creative with you, and it's only going to get more and more now in the next sections. It's creative from here on out, which you'll be glad to hear. So I have a task for you here. Not surprisingly, let me put the slide up on screen and I'll explain. The objective is, of course, to develop visual elements that convey the style and feel of your video that you've been working on, the project, using AI tools. So what I want you to do is generate key images using the tools. So Midjourney predominantly, perhaps you'll have another one. Create visuals that capture the mood and theme of your project. Focus on settings and character designs that will align with the narrative and style that you want to portray. So there's key design settings here. Identify the primary settings for your video. So we got our shot list from ChatGPT. So is it all in one location, or is it in 2, 3 locations, 4 locations? Get those down, and then generate images to reflect these environments in the styles that you want, the tone, color. Is it film noir? Is it cyberpunk, etc.? What's the feel of it? And then do the same thing for characters pretty much. We get a list of our characters, and I want you to generate a great, at least profile picture for those characters in what they're wearing, what they look like, etc. And then save all of this, of course. We're going to have these saved and stored along with everything else we've been doing for this project to have it to move forward. We are nicely collecting everything that we need here for our story. So in the next section, I'm just going to make a bit of a storyboard. That's some more images. Now we've got our cohesive look for our video. We can actually create our storyboard. Maybe for mine, I'm going to have something like 10, 12 images or whatever, and that's the beginning of my story. I can actually lay those on my timeline, and it will be a readable story before we then add little shots in between those and animate them to make a moving visual story. So that's the next stage, doing our storyboard, which is really generating some of our first images, our skeleton, if you like, for our script and our visuals, all in the next section after this task. Looking forward to seeing what you guys have done. I'll see you in the next section.